of what we have as a nation, emotionally, setting up a plan for them, the and
Brother Aziz.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us in his lecture entitled Hard Trials Are Necessary to Establish Truth that the mosque is a place of excruciating pain, which brings me and reminds me of a woman or a mother that's in labor. She's going through a tremendous amount of excruciating pain, and this is where we are born at in the mosque and given our nourishment, if you will, and our yes.
Now, there are time limits, but now if someone is in mid-stride, he could actually appeal for a little bit more time to finish his thought. And the appeal would actually be to the chairman of the session. In this case, we don't actually have a formal chairman, but I would serve in that capacity too. So why don't you appeal?
How much time can I appeal for?
Well, you can appeal for as much as you think you need. But let me say from the outset, the chair will only grant 15 additional seconds.
Yes, sir. So it is thank you, sir. It is a place for us to get our nourishment, like the sister said earlier, our fundamentals, our basics, so that we'll be able to go out and be prepared to build a nation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we've heard from everyone. Let's sort of do a little assessment. Now, Brother Michael made a joke. It got a little laugh. Brother Ishmael made a joke, got a little laugh. Is that right or wrong? That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
See, because this is a cheerful, happy kind of a thing, and even though we might be talking about a serious topic, a little humor lightens it, makes it go better. You see? So if you notice, some of the participants, they're really nervous. Can you tell? So why don't we ask them, relax, take a deep breath, relax. This is not hard. This is easy. This is like having a conversation over your breakfast table with a cup of coffee with friends. That's what this is. So it's easy. So you should be smiling, you should be relaxed, and a little humor doesn't hurt at all, as long as it doesn't take us off track, okay? So now, let me direct the dialogue a little bit better here. I'm a little bit confused on the definition of what mosque is, and I'm a little bit confused on the definition of nation. So could someone speak to either one of those points or both of those points? What is mosque? 30 seconds.
Mosque reminds me of, as a child, there's a lot of rules, regulations. You have to, first of all, deal with the pains of learning how to crawl, learning how to walk. You got to go through the teething process and the whole nine. In the mosque, we're doing the same thing, dealing with the basic fundamentals of Islam as a way of life. But then as a nation, now it's time for application of those principles that you learn at home as a child, as a teenager, how to go out and be successful. And that's what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is doing with us and preparing us for, how to get these fundamentals and these basics and then build upon them and go out and build a nation.
Time. You want to?
From my understanding of mosque in Islam is masjid. And it was established, of course, during the time of the Prophet, and it was a place for prayer. If you look and see, it's still defined as a place for prayer, and it's for the recitation of the revealed word of Allah. So mosque in Islam is the same as temple in other faiths, or church in Christian faiths. It's the place where you come to learn of God, learn of the revealed word through the scriptures. That is the physical place and setup of what is called mosque, temple, or church.
Mosque, I think, initially is a place of cultivation. And the prayer that goes in the mosque is dialogue with the Supreme Being. And through that process, self-development comes, spiritual development.
Two good definitions of mosque. Anybody else want to speak to that point? Or if somebody wants to tackle what nation is?
Mosque is defining the value and principles of life and organizing everyone to be able to live as God wants us to live righteously.
I would tackle nation a little bit. A nation is it's a government. It's an environment where people can thrive and develop their livelihood. And it's a place, or a nation is a place where there's freedom to live, to establish things for your children. It's a government. It's a government that's ruled for the people and of righteousness, in my opinion.
Okay, anybody else want to tackle nation?
I'll go for it. May I ask the facilitator a question? When we're attempting to define a term, is it better, and do we shorten the time by at least introducing what our dictionary says or what a dictionary says? Because when I notice when we dialogue on Fridays, we're giving opinions, we're giving our view on what it means, but there is an established definition of certain terms.
Yes, very good point. And you know, in a prepared dialogue where somebody was informed ahead of time of what the topic was going to be, we would expect that somebody would give us the dictionary definition or the encyclopedia definition of all of the terms that we're going to be using, so everybody understands the terms in the same way, and it would save a lot of time. Okay. But in a spontaneous one like this, did you remember to bring your dictionary? Oh, somebody has a dictionary. Okay, well, come bring your dictionary up here and let's look up both of those words. See, somebody's always prepared. Well, you're going to read it, since you know where it is.
Nation, a group of people made up of one or more nationalities under one government.
Okay. Now look up mosque and read that one. No, everybody has to participate. Everybody's playing their role. So she brought this dictionary for something, right?
Mosque, a Muslim house of worship.
That's all they say.
Yes, sir.
A Muslim house of worship. Okay. What kind of dictionary is that? Okay. But yes, you want to see the point he raised is so very important. I mean, great emphasis is laid on the use of language in our lessons. And one of the great things that we must always keep in mind is that we should never, ever read past a word that we do not understand, or if someone is speaking to us and they use a word that we don't understand, stop them. Say, wait a minute, you used a word that I'm not familiar with. What does that mean? Or if somebody is using a word in a way that you're not used to that word being used like that, stop them again. Wait a minute, when I use that word, what I mean is X, Y, and Z. You seem to be using it to mean something else. Because if we're not on the same page, if you will, where words are concerned, that's where confusion comes in, and it wastes a lot of time, and it muddies understanding. Also, and this is just a study tip for students, if you read past a word that you do not understand, do you know what's going to happen? You're going to go to sleep. So some of you say, I don't like to read because every time I start reading, I fall asleep. Do you know why you fall asleep? because you're reading past a word that you do not understand that introduces an element of unreality to your brain. Your brain is only meant to deal with reality, so since you are allowing unreality to be there, it goes to sleep. Some of you who are speakers, you'll notice people dozing off in your lecture. Do you know why? Because you are using words that that person doesn't understand. So you have to sort of measure your audience. So if you're using a word and you say, well, you know what, I believe there might be somebody here that doesn't know what that word means, use the word, then give the definition. Then use it again, give the definition again, and then you can ask the audience the question, is that clear? Does everybody understand? And really mean it. Look for the person who's still puzzled, because you have to clear it up for that person. Otherwise, 5 minutes later, you look back there they go, they'll be asleep. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt the dialogue. But now, since I'm interrupting myself, though, what mistake did I make as a facilitator? That's one. What other mistake did I make? Okay, he's saying I got off topic. Well, that might be true. But what did, way back when I put a question before the group, what mistake did I make? I asked two questions at the same time. You didn't regulate. Wait. I asked two questions at the same time. I said, what was the definition of mosque and what is the definition of nation? Strictly speaking, one question at a time. Okay? Now you said something else. Okay. All right. So let's get back in it now. What is the pathway, since the original question was, how do we move from mosque to nationhood? Okay, what is the pathway from mosque to nationhood? You've been nominated. 30 seconds.
Obedience to the one that's guiding us from mosque to nationhood.
Okay, well, brother, sister, you can do better than that.
Well, I would say education. The more that you educate and the more knowledge that you have, then the more things are, you're curious. It piques your curiosity, so you're more apt to go out and try something once you're educated. So as you're educated in different businesses, then you're more apt to try starting your own.
Brother Johnny, why don't you help us out here? We're
Yes, sir.
floundering around here. So.
Coming from the word mosque is like the Yuma or Juma, and it's the natural birthing of a nation, which goes in accord with what he says, out of the nature something is born, and it's born out of the teachings that emanate from the mosque, which is the place of worship or where the cultivation begins, and adheres to it, the restrictive law in our case, and the spreading of the teaching by raising the dead goes out into the community. Like you have Friday prayer, which is community prayer, and it builds a nation. Excuse me.
Okay, I'm still not getting any clarity. Sister, can you help us out here? What is the pathway from mosque to nation?
I believe the pathway or the direction towards the goal of moving from where you are as a mosque individual that's being cultivated by being retrained is to study and again to practice that which you are studying. And along that pathway, you will find others, and again, as a collective, you will comprise a nationhood.
Brother Michael, then Brother Ishmael, and I think our time will be exhausted.
Some possibilities are, if nation is more functions, mosque is the individuals being acted upon to cultivate and develop them. Now that they're being developed, what are they doing? What actions are they taking? So I would look at nation as being a broader range of functions that are being provided to serve our people, whether it be agriculture, business, or education, and so on and so on and so on. So maybe committees like we have, the 9 ministry committees in the mosque, is a starting point toward moving toward the development of these functions into full-blown nation functions.
See, the timekeeper actually has, you're supposed to have a little bell or something, or a whistle or something, so they can hear when their time is up.
I think that the pathway, the scripture that comes to mind is, by one man's sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and death passed to all men. Likewise, by one man's righteousness, of course, replaces the death and sin. So when you come into the mosque, the pathway is to be renewed, mind, spirit, your morals, and then to go out and reproduce yourself, 40 million, 4 billion, 400 million, the whole of humanity.
Okay, all right, so we ended on a very good note. Okay, we're out of time, and I think we should give them a hand. Takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of people unprepared and say anything. Okay, so now so we did not resolve the topic, and we see it's a very big topic that could probably consume many, many hours of dialogue, but it's educational, isn't it? Didn't you learn a few things, or more than a few things? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Probably everybody spoke 2 or 3 times, is that correct? So that means, say if they all spoke 3 times, 3 times 7 is what? 21 different thoughts were shared in a relatively short period of time. And that means a lot of learning can take place relatively quickly. Now, the last part of dialogue, after a dialogue session, is the critique. You were the audience, okay? So now let's take maybe 5 minutes for critique, which is your chance to say what the dialogue meant to you that you participated in as an audience. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it mediocre? Did we stay on topic? Did you learn something? Did people punk out? Did they refuse to confront the actual topic? What happened? Maybe we can take brother in the back. I think for the critique, why don't you come up and form a line here so we can pass you the microphone so that you can actually be heard. So if you have a critique, we'll give you 30 seconds to voice your critique. Your critique can be general for the whole group. The critique could be specific, like a lot of people realize that I did a bad job as a facilitator, so you might want to attack me.
Thanks, sir. My only critique is that when you had the 2 different, as I can see, 2 different varying points of view from Brother Johnny and Brother Michael, I believe that even though they agreed, I don't want to say they punked out, but they didn't confront each other's different points of view, because you did see 2 different points of view. It's okay to disagree. Like we say, we just have to learn to agree to disagree. That's all.
I think they punked out.
Yes, sir. I think so too.
I'd like to sing a song. No, I'm just playing. Seriously. No, my concern is basically with content, subject matter, more so than technical dynamics. My concern was that I feel that the human needs issue was not addressed in the mosque. And it's about fulfilling a human need. Everybody comes here to have their needs fulfilled. And then as we get the needs fulfilled to a general level, then we go out and help fulfill the needs of humanity. And that's the only thing I was concerned about. Everything else was good as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. I really didn't have much concern. One was I felt like that everybody was intimidated by time. I felt like, when people got the mic, as opposed to answering the question, the first thing that popped up was, I got 30 seconds. and I think maybe it took away. 30 seconds. Yes, sir. And the second thing was, I thought people were kind of getting off topic a little bit, and I thought maybe as the facilitator, if you had a specific question answered, if it's kind of going off, maybe you should bring them back and say, be more specific to the question.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Alim, could you repeat the last question that you asked them? The last question that you asked them. You asked them what would be the pathway from the mosque to nationhood. Actually, you gave the answer in the lecture. You said that deliberate dialogue would take us to drama, and the drama would take us over into nationhood. That drama meaning that what we do in the mosque would bring us to the nation based on our study and our correct assertiveness to confront what our study is. Right? Okay. Yeah. That's all I want to say.
There's someone behind you.
Assalamu alaikum. Critiquing all y'all gave me something by y'all's dialogue. So what I got from it, that the mosque is a place that gives life. And in giving life, to people who believe they're alive and not alive, it dispels their fears. So the first thing that y'all gave is to dispel fears in the nation, and then in dispelling those fears, people are apt to move. And then in moving, then you give it direction and shape and form.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's give everybody a hand, please. Thank you all very, very much. So, Brother Michael, do we have questions that came in from the email? I don't know if we do or not. Are there any other questions in the audience here?
Could you let it be known that the timekeeper was also intimidated? Because she hated it.
Well, say it yourself.
I'm sorry if I just felt kind of intimidated by having to say time. It just make you feel bad.
That's why, the mistake we made today, we didn't do the confront drill. See, if we had done the confront drill, then you wouldn't feel intimidated by time or people or anything else. You would just do your job.
Yes.
Okay? So are there any other questions that we have here? I don't know if we got any on the internet. Yes, ma'am. Okay, the question was, excuse me, I'm sorry. Killing myself up here. The question was whether these lectures will be made available on DVD. The answer is yes, inshallah, eventually. We're going to archive the lectures on the website, atonementcommission.com, so that you will be able to view them. It'll just be a little tiny picture, but you will be able to view them, and of course that'll be free of charge. But in the future, we'll put this together as a DVD set so that you'll have the whole course on a DVD. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Good question. His question was, is the best way to begin a dialogue with a question or with a statement? Well, actually, from a technical point of view, it's always a question, because the question is that which evokes a response from people. So most good dialogues begin with a question, but it can just be a statement where people are asked to respond to a provocative or a dramatic statement that may have some controversy attached to it. But generally speaking, a dialogue is actually thought of as question and answer, or question and response. No, the brother in the back first. Walaikum salam. Well, that's a very good question. He's saying that attitude has something to do with dialogue. And he mentioned something about attitude adjustment. Is that a part of the dialogue? Yes, it is. The dialogue process itself adjusts attitude if people can stay in it long enough. Now, someone may have such an obnoxious attitude or an attitude of uncooperation to the point that they'll get up and walk out. Well, that, in one sense, that is a drastic attitude adjustment. They left. And suddenly the mood and the feeling in the group improves simply because a very negative person departed. And sometimes you have to look at what that actually means. I touched on this in some of the past weeks. See, if you have a really dishonest person that's trying to dialogue, at a certain point, they can't stand it. And they are in personal crisis in the dialogue, and they are going to either have to immediately turn 180 degrees and go in the right direction and start telling the truth, or else they got to leave. And you'll see them get up and leave. This is one of the greatest benefits of dialogue, because it either straightens people out through the process or they dismiss themselves. You don't have to put them out. They put themselves out. It reveals hypocrisy, because a person who is a hypocrite is saying out of their mouth what is not in their heart. Okay, well, in the dialogue, that becomes evident to everybody that is there. So it could be the cure for hypocrisy by curing the disease that is in the heart, or it drives the hypocrite out if they cannot or will not change. So yes. Now, in some of the advanced forms of dialogue, we deal with some very severe issues, which we didn't get into. I mean, suppose in a dialogue you really have 2 points of view that are diametrically opposed. And suppose in the dialogue it gets really heated and people just can't control their emotions because they feel so strongly about what's under discussion. Well, there are techniques for dealing with that to diffuse that kind of situation. But those are techniques that we just don't have the time to get into at this time. But perhaps at another time, we'll demonstrate what some of those techniques are so that you can get past those heated emotions. If that occurs under these circumstances, the best thing might be for someone just to get up and excuse themselves if they can't control themselves. Okay, I think I saw another hand here. Oh, okay, this is an announcement that goes to your question about the DVDs. Tuesday's DVDs available now at atonementcommission.com. So they're available now. All right. So what is that called? What is that called? That's called 50 times faster. I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
The next session, when you do a dialogue, 2 sessions I've been here and I've heard the question about a domestic problem between husband and wife, and whether or not that male individual is hardened and cannot, will not participate in a proper dialogue. So if you can, make that part of your teachings going forward.
Well, I think everybody heard the question about domestic situations. A lot of times those are really special cases and there's a lot of heat involved. And that may not be a situation of dialogue where those two people can actually handle that themselves because they are intimately involved in it. So that's where marriage counseling would come into play, where the marriage counselor actually is the facilitator of the dialogue and helps to open up the parties so that they can reopen communication, reestablish communication within that marriage. But that's a special case that we're not really quite talking about therapeutic dialogue in this setting, okay? Although there's a great need for that, and we need trained facilitators to help us to solve some of these domestic issues that are among us. So try it if you can, as married couples who are having problems. Try it, see if you can work that out. But a lot of times what you'll find is you really can't do it by yourself without help. The same might be true in some study groups and in some mosques, where, you know, one of the reasons that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan took away the titles is because there has been instances of abuse over a long period of time among a group of people. Well, now, there might be some heat there too, you see, and so in some extreme cases, it might be difficult for a group, a study group or a mosque to have certain types of dialogue without expert facilitation. And one of the things that I would, you know, given the limitations on my time, but there may be some places where I just need to go, or Brother Michael or others who are trained facilitators would need to go to help facilitate the dialogue, you know, in a troubled group like that, okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir. Why don't you come up, brother, so you can, yeah, but the microphone is here.
It was available now, but where we get it from? I have to have a computer to get it, or what? I can get it from him?
Yeah, just go to atonementcommission.com. So you need to be on the internet.
Oh, you have to get on the internet, then you have to put it down.
Yep. Okay, here's a question from the internet. What is the best way to involve our youth in dialogue? For example, 14 to 21 years old. Should we make a dialogue group that is age specific, or simply place them among others regardless of age of participants? Okay, very good question. Well, I think the best way to involve our youth in dialogue is just to start dialoguing so that becomes a part of the culture, that becomes a part of the family life. And naturally they get involved in it because it's taking place among them. And if you notice, young people like to be expressive, don't they? So a lot of times the frustration between parents and children, or older people and younger people, is we like the old dictum, children are to be seen and not heard. Well, that's shutting down dialogue. And so then if they want to express themselves, what does it mean? It means they have to leave the home, they have to leave the family, go somewhere where someone will allow them to express themselves. And oftentimes, they go to the wrong places and with the wrong people and express themselves in the wrong way. So it's good to facilitate dialogue in a home environment where it's safe. But now, children and even adults have to feel secure, right? You don't want to be in a dialogue where you don't feel secure, that you feel that if you really express yourself, somebody's going to punch you in the nose, or somebody's going to put you out, or somebody's going to hurt you or punish you simply because you honestly express yourself. So before you can engage young people, or for that matter anybody in dialogue, you have to establish a perimeter of security. And there has to be a sense of trust and confidence in the people who are participating. So that may take a little doing to build that up. Now, dialogue can be age specific. It just depends. See, the group that is in dialogue should have something in common. That's why they're in dialogue, because they share some common interest. and sometimes interests are based on age groups, but not always. On another topic, it might be very important to have intergenerational dialogue, where you bring 2, 3, 4 generations of a family together, where now you got all kinds of generational bridges that are being built through a dialogue under those circumstances. So there are no limits on what it can be or who can participate in it. I see one hand in the back, and any other hands? Brother, okay, 1, 2, we'll have 2 last questions. Please come forward so you can speak into the microphone. That way I don't have to repeat your question or comment.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Aline. Everything that you said was very moving, it was very thought-provoking, and I learned a lot from what you did. But now, my primary question is, will you be able to take this into another phase, or we will be going on so we can continue to grow in this particular manner from that same aspect of maybe motivational speaking, maybe something of those lines that would stir us in the same direction that you're speaking of with the ministries and things?
Well, yes, sir. I mean, there are many things beyond what this is that we can go to, but really what I'm wanting to see is whether or not we have already been stimulated enough to begin the dialogue process among ourselves wherever we are, on whatever level we're capable of upholding dialogue. And so remember, back in the beginning, I compared it to learning basketball. I think the example was that I used. You weren't too good at it the first time you tried to dribble. The first time you tried to shoot the ball, you're way off on your shots. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is that you started and you kept at it, and then pretty soon you build up your skill. So the same with dialogue. The main thing is just have the courage enough to begin and just keep at it, and over time you will see the emergence of the true self that is hidden, perhaps, or the true selves of others that are participating with you in dialogue. And then together, we as people will grow, and we will have among us such a great love and affinity and respect mutually for one another that we really will be an insurmountable force in the mosque, in the community, in the nation, and throughout the world. And then we really will be capable of taking action that will make a meaningful difference in this world. So I think I saw one last question here, and then I think that would be it.
How do you, oh, thank you. Very well. How do you designate who is to be the facilitator? And could it be where we get greater training for facilitators to transfer it to the participants in the circle?
Okay, that's a great question. How do you determine who should be the facilitator or the other roles? Well, again, let me use the analogy. How did you decide when you were a child and you were playing basketball or baseball, how did you decide who was going to be the quarterback? How did you decide who was going to be the point guard? How did you decide any of those things? Well, everybody just started playing, right? And then it began to dawn on everybody, oh, this guy is really good at this, and this one is good at that, and this one is good at that, and so you sort of self-select. But the main thing was not worrying about all of those things in the beginning. The main thing was just getting started. Just start playing. Just start dialoguing. Now, of course, in a more formal sense, say if you tried out for basketball or football in high school or junior high school, maybe the coach tried you out at different positions. Oh, you have big hands. Maybe you'll be a good wide receiver. Okay, so he tried you out on that. If that didn't work, well, maybe you'll be a halfback. Maybe you just try people out in different roles. It might be good for a while the roles to just rotate among many different people. So everybody gets experience at everything, and then they may actually have a talent in one area above the others. So just get started. That's the main thing. So I think that is our time this evening. I thank you very much for your kind attention. I've enjoyed myself. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I've learned a lot. I hope you have too. So may Allah bless us with the light of understanding. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Can we give Brother Aleem Muhammad another warm round of applause? And of course, we thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for setting up these courses that help us to help him better. You all can remain standing at this time. We're going to close our meeting in prayer. We want to make just a few announcements. One, the Navy beans are available downstairs in Sister Judith's office. And also on tomorrow evening, on Wednesday, we will be meeting right back here to discuss what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe. We're going to be in our study circles. And then on Friday, of course, is our study circle on the Supreme Wisdom. And then on Sunday, Brother Ishmael asked me to announce that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has a special Christmas message that he wants Brother Ishmael to deliver. So we are encouraged to be here with our Lost Found on Sunday at 10 a.m. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, praises belongs to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone do we serve, Thee alone do we beseech for Thine aid. Guide us, O Allah, on the right path, the path of those upon whom Thou hast bestowed Your favor, and not the path of those upon whom Thy wrath has been brought down, nor of those who have gone astray. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.